Hi, I'm Delaney Brander,
And this is Brayden and Delaney.
and our SDG goal is 4.C, which is quality education.
Quality education by 2030 substantially increase the supply of qualified teachers, including through international cooperation for teacher training in developing countries, especially least developed countries and small island developing states.
So, what has caused these issues? Number one, the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated already large issues. There was a shutdown of teacher preparation programs, which has exacerbated the teacher shortage and caused a lot of issues. Number two, working conditions in schools, lack of resources such as school materials, lack of pay, shortages, respecting communities, and overcrowding of classrooms are all reasons why teachers are not eager to join the profession or are leaving the profession earlier than planned. There are also barriers to teacher preparation programs for developing teachers. This looks like the cost of education, specifically in the United States, but also around the world, transportation needs when it comes to completing internships and field experiences, and lack of payment for work when it comes to these field experiences that take up so much time and restrict teacher education students from being able to complete outside jobs for compensation. And additionally, funding, whether this relates to inequitable funding models. In Ohio, that looks like property taxes, which inequitably fund our schools, and around the world, the UNESCO and African Union groups have called for more equitable funding for rural and inner city students. There's also underfunding and prioritization of different areas.
COVID-19 and the teacher shortage. COVID-19 had an overall impact on the education system as a whole. Teachers reported probability of leaving their current state or the profession within the next 5 years. It also has increased from 24% on average in March of 2020, which the pandemic was at its high, to 30% in March 2021, where we can see an increase of teachers leaving their overall profession. This change was due to a reduction in the percentage of teachers reporting a zero probability of leaving, a corresponding increase in the percentage reporting chances above 50%. The aftermath of COVID-19 has taken a toll on the education system as a whole. Many situations regarding schools have been politicized as well. Teachers feel disrespected overall. The workload is highly unmanageable. It is not worth the pay, and also it is also contributing to the national teacher shortage. COVID-19 has halted college students from joining the profession as well. Once a federal grant is passed to promise commission for student teachers, the overall education field will see improvement in quality of education, teachers, and more applicants.
Perfect. So, to start off the background for our policy, the global goals have a specific goal aimed at ensuring every child has access to quality education by 2030. But data from the UN shows that to achieve this, we will need to recruit nearly 26 million new teachers. This quote was from 2015, but is still highly applicable because we are nowhere near and even falling further away from this goal due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Teacher shortage in the state of Ohio. The Ohio Education Association reports that preliminary July 2022 data shows a decrease of 17,000 K through 12 public school employees in Ohio versus employment levels in July 2019.
For the state of Ohio, a few solutions were offered. Number one, which was presented by the Ohio Education Association, was called Grow Your Own. It removed some challenges for subbing and tried to incentivize local community members to grow their own students by volunteering and working as substitute teachers in schools, which had limited effect, but it was an effort nonetheless. Additionally, in January of 2023, Governor DeWine signed House Bill 554, which restored all teacher licenses which had expired due to a lack of reapplication for the next 2 years. So if someone did not receive disciplinary action but just allowed their license to expire, their license is now active for the next 2 years.
Local administration regarding the teacher shortage around where we are currently. Some personal stories from the Athens superintendent. He said, "This has been the most difficult summer we've ever had in regards to filling all the positions." Tom Gibbs said, Jackson superintendent. When I first started, I literally had milk crates full of applications for elementary education, particularly in the primary K through 3, Howard said. Now I'm lucky if we've got 15, 20 applicants for those same positions.
Nationally, 600,000 teachers have left the profession since 2020. Across the country, there are 36,000 teacher vacancies from kindergarten through high school and another 163,000 teachers that aren't qualified from their jobs, which is according to data collected by the Annenberg Institute at Brown University. The shortage is so impactful that some schools have resorted to untraditional concepts such as switching to 4-day weeks. Additionally, these numbers were reported in this article that they are on the lower end of the estimations. Most organizations estimate that these numbers for underqualified teachers and teacher vacancies are much higher, but these are the conservative estimates. According to a survey by the National Education Association, 90% of educators nationwide reported feeling burnt out, and 55% that said that they were seriously considering leaving the profession early.
Teacher shortages across the globe. Across the world, at least 74 countries face an acute shortage of teachers. This results in millions of children being excluded from primary education and beyond. Recently, UNESCO and African Union groups call for equity and opportunity for access for all children in sub-Saharan Africa, stating that students from rural and inner city experiences are not being given the same funding and opportunities. Lack of training, unattractive working conditions, and inadequate funding all undermine the teaching profession and aggravate the global learning crisis. UNESCO has always placed teachers at the heart of the fight for the right to inclusive and quality education. There's an urgent need to better recognize this profession on which the future of our children depends. This quote was from the UNESCO Director General, Audrey Azoulay. So this graph we can see here is the total number of teachers needed to achieve universal primary education. As we can see, by 2030,
we need almost 26 million more teachers. The purple is replacement for attrition, which is teachers that have left, and the yellowish orange shows the amount of new teaching posts that need to be added in order to meet the goal. Also, we have a lot of graphs to look at when it comes to education on a national level. So starting on the top left, the ratio of job hires or hires to job openings has been below 1 since 2017. So less than 1 new teacher is hired compared to the amount of openings that are opened every single year in the United States. And you can see the years that are below 1 in red. If you move to the center on the top, teacher preparation enrollments and completion were lower in 2019 and 2020 than a decade ago. And you can see the enrollments in purple and completions in the red, and see the vast gap between how many people are enrolling in teacher preparation programs versus how many people are actually completing them. On the right, which is a big part of our policy, is the fact that public school students and ESPs are more racially and ethnically diverse than teachers. Because there's so many barriers, students of minority backgrounds that might enter teacher preparation programs are unable to do so, which is what our policy aims to fight. On the bottom left, job openings in public education began to outpace hires prior to the pandemic, although the gap has widened, which kind of relates to the graph above of hires being, ratio of hires to job openings being below 1. The graph that we think is the most interesting in the center on the bottom says the percent of Americans who would not want their children to become a public school teacher recently overtook the percentage who would want this. And part of this is what is expected of students as they complete their teacher preparation programs. And on the right side, quits have accounted for more departures from public education than other separations, and layoffs and discharges for over a decade, with only few exceptions.
So what needs to change? Implementing policy at the national level. U.S. students consistently score lower in math and science than students from many other countries. According to a Business Insider report in 2018, the U.S. ranked 38th in math score and 24th in science. Discussions about why the United States education rankings have fallen by international standards over the past 3 decades frequently point out that government spending on education has failed to keep up with inflation. As time keeps going forward, the United States keeps leaving funding for education. If the United States were to put money inside the educators' pockets, the quality and materials used for education would improve drastically.
So here's our solution. By modeling after active Michigan policy, we believe that we can create meaningful change that will help diversify and encourage future educators.
Michigan, a call for progression. Governor Gretchen Whitmer in the summer of 2022 has signed legislation to allow student teachers to receive up to 9,600 for a full-time semester. For the 2022-2023 school year, the fund provided 2,186 future educators, a total of $23.4 million in assistance. House Bill 6013 provides for $1,000 for a mentor teacher and $90 per full school day for a maximum total of $9,600 for the student teacher in grant aid.
So why should student teachers get paid? The overall purpose of changing and implementing student teaching pay will improve the quality of education on all levels and also help to bring teachers into the profession. With COVID, politics, and the underwhelming pay, the profession has become less desirable. These recent issues have turned becoming an educator into a burden. Our policy will help intrigue college students and make teaching feel more worthwhile. Additionally, by removing barriers such as compensation for teacher education programs, the profession can grow in diversity. So our policy, a little bit more about this to end our presentation. So we would model after Michigan law. We would propose a new national initiative be taken to compensate student teachers in order to remove barriers to completing teacher education programs.
Our compensation schedule would follow the Michigan model by $90 per full day for a semester, one-time maximum of up to $9,600.
Additionally, we would also like to include compensation for part-time student teachers as well, for a maximum of 3 semesters where the student is participating in a minimum of 5 hours of field experience per week. This payment would be at a rate of $15 per hour.
Mentor teachers could be potentially up to $1,000 per year bonus, which would be given to encourage the acceptance of student teachers coming into the school.
Similar to the model bill, funding would be required to be budgeted from the main legislative budget in perpetuity. There are no specifications from where legislators must draw funds. Thank you for listening, and that's all.
Thank you.